Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. Another day, another deal for Palantir. This deal comes after two deals, which were the Lockheed Martin deal and the Cleveland Clinic deal. Now we've got a new deal with CDC and Palantir. 5 years, $443 million. Let's get into it and analyze. CDC and Palantir partnered to deliver common operating picture to advance public health readiness. For those that don't know what the CDC is, it's the Centers for Disease Control and Protection. They have renewed their work with Palantir with the company to continue delivering leading-edge software and digital capabilities to modernize the nation's public health infrastructure. Using the Palantir platform, the agency will be able to employ scalable technology to plan, manage, and respond to future outbreaks and public health incidents. Now, before we dive even more deeper into this press release, I want to show you guys a couple of things right here. April 15, 2022, Palantir expands long-standing CDC partnership for disease monitoring and response. We have April 26, 2022, Center for Disease Controls and Prevention once again extended and expanded a contract with Palantir to apply to its outbreak response. February 22, 2022, CDC partners with Palantir to bolster the fight against COVID-19. So the CDC has been a pretty strong partner when it comes to getting new deals with Palantir, and for some reason, they've been able to implement their platform, they've been able to use their technology, and they've been able to constantly do new deals and extensions utilizing their software in different places, showing that the software is probably pretty powerful for something like the Centers for Disease Control. 5-year, $443 million. This will include Health and Human Services, Project Protect, Administration for Strategic Preparedness and Response, Engage, and Tiberus and Decipher. These are all different acronyms for different programs that the CDC has into a singular efficient vehicle. So all those PRs that I mentioned from a couple of months ago, now they're kind of all going in one together into like one single source of truth that is going to be the way that the CDC ultimately utilizes Palantir's platform. This new approach demonstrates the CDC's leadership in driving interagency public health, and the length of the contract allows for long-term planning and operational consistency for the program and its partners, which means interagency public health programs means like Health and Human Services, HHS, which is kind of like a subsidiary from CDC, is now going to be working with the CDC integrated into Palantir's technology. A long-term contract means they actually have the ability to work out the deal, how it comes out, how the technology is deployed, and all that stuff. So, I mean, overall, it's a pretty strong collaboration with Palantir, and it's a heavy partner that likely after these 5 years is done, which is almost about $100 million a year they're getting from this deal, you could imagine they're going to extend this for another 5-10 years, especially if it makes them more efficient and effective, and if it stops any potential outbreaks that might happen. Under this deal, Palantir's technology will support the CDC's common operating picture, a unique interagency enterprise investment that secures strong collaboration across the federal government, jurisdictional health departments, private sector entities, and other key health partners. By employing Palantir software, these groups can continue to make advances in broader disease surveillance and outbreak response, supply chain resiliency, and the orchestration of medical countermeasures to public health emergencies. I think those are sort of the three key KPIs that the CDC wants to get out of this deal. Number one is broader disease surveillance. So do we think another COVID-19 outbreak is going to happen? Obviously, it flipped the entire world on its edge when it did happen, and it messed up a lot of things, messed up a lot of economies, messed up a lot of people's lives, right? And that's an understatement. So if you could surveil those diseases, if you could surveil those, that's a comment. You got to put that. If you got to this point of the video, surveil those diseases. If you could surveil the diseases that are happening and recognize them before they happen, that's a good thing. Outbreak response means that as soon as we think there's a little bit of an outbreak, we can respond to that using real-time data and technology. And then supply chain resiliency is also a big one, because when an outbreak does happen or before it happens, making sure your supply chains are efficient and effective to stop it is an important thing. For example, this award will help support innovation for the CDC's new Center for Forecasting and Outbreak Analytics, the CFA, as well as wastewater genomics via the National Wastewater Surveillance System, NWSS. I think Palantir also, if I'm not wrong, might have had a deal with NWSS, or at least has talked about working with the NWSS in the past. So this is a good thing for Palantir to be integrated at the heart of a lot of the stuff that's going on when it comes to the CDC. Over the last several years, significant technology investments have been made for pandemic preparedness, emergency response, integrated public health surveillance, supply chain management, and interagency coordination to create a modern public health infrastructure. Palantir's technology played an integral role in the federal government's response to COVID-19, and this partnership aims to leverage the lessons learned during that time and translate them into a more generalized pandemic preparedness infrastructure and healthcare system in the U.S. So it seems like the overall goal of a deal like this, which is why they're paying, close to $500 million for this, is to make sure that the technology is in place to stop a pandemic from happening, and if it does happen, be prepared as soon as it happens, because obviously when COVID happened, the world was not prepared, much less the United States, to be able to take on the challenges that come with it. Quote from Hirsch Jane, head of public health federal at Palantir, says Palantir is extremely proud to continue its partnership with the CDC, ASPR, and HHS to strengthen America's public health infrastructure through leading-edge preparedness technology. This contract solidifies the important digital advancements in public health made during the pandemic and expands the CDC's capacity to create a sustainable and long-term approach beyond COVID-19. This deal is the latest example of Palantir's role in the U.S. and global public health sector. So Palantir got about $800 million of governmental deals in September. And one of the bull cases for Palantir, which CEO Alex Karp was recently speaking at the Reagan Defense Forum, is how the U.S. military is embedded within the entire fabric of Palantir's business, right? Like they expect the TAM of $900 billion and the average government spending about $800 billion a year in defense to gain a decent amount of that, right? And if they even gain 5 or 10% of that, that's a lot of money coming into Palantir, and the multiples on the stock are going to explode if that happens. Now, the execution risk is if that happens, but if that does happen in the next 5, 6, 7, 10 years, then there's a possibility to have massive share appreciation. Palantir being able to get embedded within the government and really get some of these important deals that it's not easy for a company like Snowflake or Datadog or Databricks to get. Why? Because they haven't gotten it, right? Like CDC is not picking them. They're picking Palantir for a reason. Like at the end of the day, it's black or white. Like either you go with this guy or this guy. And the government's cheap. They want the cheapest option, but they also need the thing to work if they get it and it's cheap. And if it's cheap and it doesn't work, then there's no value to it. And in fact, they're just wasting money at that point, especially taxpayer dollars. So in this context, Palantir being able to get these deals, not only from the government, $800 million in September, but being able to now get another $500 million deal over the next 5 years, $443 million with the CDC, it further solidifies the moat this company has with the government, not to mention they got IL6 certification back in October, which only 2 other companies have. One is Microsoft, one is Amazon. Amazon now a $900 billion market cap company because of the recent decline. Amazon, or Microsoft, $1.28 trillion. Market cap company, or $1.25 trillion company, something like that. So like it's you got $2 trillion companies having the ability to gain IL6 security clearance with the DoD, which is the highest level security clearance you get with the government. And then you got Palantir, this tiny little $16 billion company, sneaking in there as well. From a growth perspective, I'm looking at this as a 10-year investment, and I'm like, okay, these are the deals that I want to see. I mean, they just got another deal with the Cleveland Clinic. They got another deal today with the Tampa General Hospital. I'll be making another video about talking even further in depth. But it's more and more deals like these that are going to consistently set up the foundation in the next 5, 6, 10 years, if we are right about their growth potential, for them to actually have that momentous growth that Wall Street then looks at and says, hey, this is a stock that we probably should be interested in. I mean, you just have to ask yourself a question. What other company is stopping a pandemic from starting with the technology that is years ahead of any other competitor and that actually works when you use it to try to figure out if something's happening or if a disease is outbreaking, etc.? There's just not many of them. I'm sure there are some, but there's not many that are getting $443 million from the CDC to be able to do this. And if Palantir is doing that, then I feel a little bit more comfortable putting my money into Palantir, knowing that they're able to get these deals. So those are my thoughts. At the end of the day, more contracts like this are good. More deals like this are good. It's fun to cover Palantir because there's the commercial side of stuff they're getting, like Hertz and Lockheed Martin and Cleveland Clinic, and then there's the governmental side of stuff they're getting, like the CDC and Army Vantage contract and the Titan program that they're working on, and all these different things that they're working with research labs and the Project Maven. There's just different things that they're able to do. There's so many different areas, which is again my investment thesis. I think they can be applied in so many different verticals that at the end of the day, it's just a question of if Wall Street catches up with that and if they can continue to grow and if they can continue to increase their operating margin. So those are my thoughts. Thank you guys so much for listening and watching. Let me know your thoughts on Palantir's new CDC contract. Thank you for listening. I'll see you in the next one.